What's going on, San Antonio? What's going on, South Texas? It is Monday, December 11th here in San Antonio, Texas, and in deep South Texas. It's a great day for a lot of Cowboy fans out there. I got to say it, got to leave the mic out a little bit. How about them Cowboys, baby? How about them Cowboys? You know, we have a lot to get into today. You know, this is the Alamo City Sportscast. My name's Mike Jimenez. You know, I like talking sports. I like talking pop culture. I talk nostalgia. We're live on Facebook, Twitter. We're live on YouTube. Please subscribe to our network over here. We do this Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, talking about doing this daily beginning at the start of the new year. But my goodness, we asked for this, right? The Dallas Cowboys, can they actually beat a good team? Cowboys going into last night's game, a Sunday night game that everyone was watching. Fact of the matter is, the Cowboys had not beaten a good team all year long. It was a very easy schedule, and now the Cowboys have that in their back pocket. They beat the Eagles, and right now, as it stands right now, the Dallas Cowboys are atop the NFC East. Not the number one overall seed right now, though, because that honor right now belongs to the San Francisco 49ers. We'll get into the Cowboys talk. By the way, again, we're live on YouTube. Leave your comments. Be more than happy to read them. It helps guide this show. Talking about the Cowboys, Brandon Aubrey, that kicker, my God, what a game he had last night. Was this a win more for the offense or the defense yesterday? Because as good as Dak looked yesterday, fact of the matter is that defensively, they brought it, man. The Cowboys look so good right now. And the weird thing is that despite the fact that the Cowboys are atop the NFC East right now and technically have a higher seed than the Eagles still control their destiny in this division, which is so bizarre. Lots to get into when it comes to that. Dak Prescott, did he win the MVP award last night, or did he put himself in position to be that number one spot right now going into the last month of the year? How afraid are Cowboy fans right now of the 49ers? I mean, is that going to be the major competition when it comes to getting to the Super Bowl? Is Dak Prescott really worth $60 million? Because I have a poll right now on Twitter at MJ Acquire Taste, and you'd be surprised at the results right now. If I'd asked this question 2 months ago, is Dak Prescott worth $60 million? 95% of people would say not in a million years. But what about now? What about now? What if he's actually the MVP? Is Dak Prescott really worth that $60 million price tag that he might get this offseason? We'll also talk about the Spurs hoping to snap a 16-game losing streak, taking on the Houston Rockets tonight. Joe Garcia normally produces this show, but again, because he's doing his thing with his new job, he's unable to be on for the first few weeks or so. So it's been about 3 or 4 weeks since he's been on with me. I miss him. Joe Garcia, you are missed. And for those of you who know, I am not technologically advanced, and that is why I messed up with the intro and had to restart the show. Again, we are live right now, and we're on YouTube. By the way, we're also available on all the major podcast platforms. So if you missed this show for any reason, you can always go on and just relive the glory that is this show at your leisure on Spotify, on iHeart app, and all of that stuff. You can reach out to us. Lots of comments coming in already right now. David Atwater reaches out and says, "Puro pinche Cowboys." Paul Cantu saying, "Yo, do I sound a little loud? Because right now I'm a little bit what's called overmodulated in my industry. Do I sound better now? Because I just lowered my mic right there." Paul Cantu again saying, "Yo." Chris Gonzalez says, someone forgot to switch over. That's exactly it, because I had the wrong intro out there. That is my bad. Joe did switch it over, but that is my bad. Chris Bettis reaches out and saying, "Yeah, here we go. How about them Cowboys?" Gonzalez saying that this is more of a win for the defense. And Hand Over Fist, this is what we got to talk about right here. Hand Over Fist reaches out and says, "My boys are looking like a contender." People are starting to believe. I make fun of Joe Garcia all the time, our producer of this show, because he oftentimes says that he doesn't believe it. It's been so long. It's been, 28 years since the Dallas Cowboys last won a Super Bowl. They haven't even been to the conference championship much less the Super Bowl since 1996. I asked a friend yesterday, and I've mentioned this before, pop culture related. What was the number one song the last time the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl back in February of 96 or January of 96? The number one song on that day was One Sweet Day by Boyz II Men and Mariah Carey. It has been that long since the Cowboys have won a Super Bowl, haven't even gone back to the conference championship. And because of that, a lot of Cowboy fans are jaded when it comes to their fandom. Don't get me wrong. You always have those fans who are like, it is our year, right? But they say that because they want to be optimistic, not necessarily because they believe it. Coming into this season, I told Cowboy fans, this is your window. This is your window of opportunity to be a Super Bowl contender, to make the Super Bowl. There was a variety of reasons for this. First and foremost, it's because Aaron Rodgers was no longer with Green Bay. And you take a look at this landscape of the NFL season, and I thought to myself, there's only 3 or 4 really good teams in the NFC that can actually come out. You can have the Cowboys, you can have the Eagles, you can have the Niners, maybe the Seahawks, but the Seahawks have kind of floundered there. They've had some injuries. And a lot of football fans would reach out to me and say, Jimenez, this is the NFL, man. And in the NFL, certain things happen. And, there's going to be a team that kind of comes out of nowhere. And I guess you can say that team is Detroit, but then again, Detroit lost to Chicago yesterday. So it's interesting when you take a look at what's going on in the NFL and the NFC in particular. It is not as rough as it is right now in the AFC, which is why Patrick Mahomes lost his fucking mind last night. It's because it's difficult in the AFC. In the NFC, win your division, you're going to have the Eagles to play. You're going to have to take on the Niners at some point. But that's it, right? The first round should be relatively easy because if the Cowboys, let's say the Cowboys don't even win the division and they're the 5 spot, they're going to have to take on my Saints. They're going to have to take on the Falcons, and they're going to destroy whatever team comes out of the NFC South. But the Cowboys looking at like a contender, I need Cowboy fans to understand this. As good as Dak Prescott has been, and he may very well be the MVP this year of the NFL, this is the year for the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl, because after this season, it gets even harder. Because if Dak is going to go from making $45 million to $60 million, and then you're going to have Micah Parsons wanting to get a raise because he deserves it, and you have Tony Pollard on a franchise tag, we're probably going to see the last of Tony Pollard, to be honest with you. You take a look around at all the different things that the Cowboys need to do and all the mouths that they have to feed and all the raises that they need to give, and they've already given to a Trayvon Diggs or to a CeeDee Lamb. The Cowboys have a window of opportunity of this year. After this year, it gets even harder. Now, are the Cowboys actually contenders right now? Damn straight they are. Dak Prescott has had a stretch of games in the last 7 games that he's never done before. Now, we can all say that they've been against a lot of bad teams, but the fact of the matter is that they've played the Eagles twice, should have won both games. They blew it up there at Lincoln Financial a month ago. They should have won that game. But take a look at the Cowboys right now in a 3-way tie atop the NFC with San Francisco, Philadelphia, and of course themselves. The road is going to go through more than likely San Francisco. And if you look at the Eagles and you look at the Cowboys have been more impressive this year, but the Eagles eke out wins. The Eagles don't play well in the first half and typically play better in the second half. And yesterday, I thought it was going to happen. I hate to use the phrase, your butt puckers a little bit, but I mean, think about it last night. The Cowboys go into halftime after destroying the Eagles in the first half and are looking amazing. The Cowboys were looking so good yesterday going into halftime, but we knew that the Eagles were going to get the ball first. And what ended up happening was the Eagles stopped the Cowboys a couple of times, a couple of 3-and-outs. Eagles score a touchdown on a fumble recovery, 43 yards to the house, and all of a sudden, it's getting a little bit close. All of a sudden, for a lot of Cowboy fans who went into halftime up 24-6, you see 24-13, And it's like, oh my God, okay, they're going to catch up a little bit. The momentum is swinging towards the Eagles. You have a 3rd and long for the Cowboys. And I looked at my friends and I said, hey, Eagles get this stop. They're going to go score again, and it's going to be a 1-possession game, whether it's a field goal or or a touchdown. It's going to be a 1-possession game, and at this point, it is game on. Dak threw this pass on 3rd and long, probably about 7.5 feet up in the air, and somehow or another, Jake Ferguson, Fergalicious, baby, comes down with the ball, 1st down, and I looked at my friends and I said, that is the play of the game right there. Game is over. And I know we were midway through the 3rd quarter and there was a lot of playing time at that point. Cowboys ended up getting a field goal to go up 2 scores there, making a 14-point game. But I looked at my friends. We were all having a party at my friend Sean's house, and I looked at him and I said, that was the play of the game right there. And think about the dynamics of that play. First of all, you had Dak Prescott under pressure, buying time. And Dak Prescott not flinging it downfield, not doing a dink and Dak. It was a touch pass, but it was a long touch pass. And for Ferguson to go up there and grab it, I mean, it was a thing of beauty. It was a thing of beauty. And that was the game right there. And I know there was a lot more time to go, and but it was such a heartbreaker for the Eagles to have that play happen to them. And I knew right then and there that the Cowboys were going to win. Dak Prescott yesterday, 24 for 39, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was a good game for Dak Prescott. It wasn't his best game, but overall, it was a good game considering the fact that he was going up against the Eagles' defensive line. But there's certain things going on right now with the Cowboys with this win yesterday that go beyond the fact that Dak had a good game. Tyron Smith, oh my God. Turn back the clock. This is a future Hall of Famer who just looked so good yesterday, just holding up the left side of the line. He was amazing. And then Brandon Aubrey. My friend Michelle, yesterday, watching the game with her and her family and some friends, looked at me and said, I'm going to get a Brandon Aubrey jersey. Think about that. When was the last time anybody had any desire to get a jersey of a field goal kicker? Now, they are a soccer family, but that whole storyline right there about how Brandon Aubrey is a rookie for the Dallas Cowboys, didn't play high school football, didn't play college football, was a college soccer player, and then he goes on to the USFL and finds his way into the Dallas Cowboys because he's from the DFW area and all that stuff. It's a great storyline. My friends got pissed off when I said, yeah, but wait till the playoffs. Let's see if he shanks one in the playoffs. They're like, we don't want to talk about that. This guy has missed a few extra points, but when it comes to field goals, is just knocking him down, man. Has not missed one at all this year. It's a record for starting a career without missing and it's still going. It's a record for the most field goals made in a row to start a career. On top of that, became the first kicker in NFL history with 2 field goal kicks in the same game of 59 yards or longer. And when he knocked those 59 yarders, they would have been good from 65. One of them would have been good from 70. And Brandon Aubrey going out there and just, oh my God. And it's not like he's hugging the upright. It is straight downtown every single time. And for Cowboy fans who lived through the life of Brett Maher, who lived through the life of other kickers in the past, even when Zerline was with the Cowboys, who's just historically a very good kicker, is somebody who you just couldn't count on him because he got the yips. And you have this Brandon Aubrey guy going out there, and think about the confidence that you have as a team knowing, dude, we just got to get it to the 43-yard line and we're good. You know, they have that red line when you watch the NFL games and it says, here's the field goal marker, get it to the 30, 32, 33, 34, 35. This dude, you just get it to the 43, 45-yard line and he's good. Like he can reach it from there. The peace of mind that Cowboy fans have right there is something that they haven't had in the past. So what wins football games in January? It is running, it is defense, it is competent quarterback play, and it is kicking. They've got the kicking. They've got the competent quarterback play because Dak is playing out of his mind right now, and they've got the defense. But do they have the running game? There was a point yesterday in the game where the Cowboys were down to just one halfback, and that was Tony Pollard, because Rico Dowdle had got hit and was knocked out of the game for like half a quarter. That's the one area right there where I have some concern of the Dallas Cowboys is, do they have the running game to win in January in cold weather if they have to go on the road or if they have to go to San Francisco to go play? But Cowboy fans, I mean, as of right now, are you guys contenders? Yeah, you are one of the 5 or 6 teams that can actually win the Super Bowl. And this is the window of opportunity. It begins right now. It begins right now. Chris Gonzalez asking the question, what about Justin Tucker? That's what they have. They have their own version of Justin Tucker. Someone who could just knock it down, but can he prove himself to do this? Because he doesn't have the experience. That's the weird thing about it, though. He doesn't have the experience of, hey, I did this in high school. Hey, I did this in college. I was, in bowl games or things like that. No, he doesn't have that experience. But he's doing it under the lights, under the pressure of being a Dallas Cowboy with the star on the helmet. He's doing it with the fact that the Cowboys are playing Sunday night football games and Monday night football games and Thanksgiving. And he's still knocking them down, man. He's still knocking him down. Josh Jimenez, no relation to me, says if the Cowboys get the number 1 seed, this is their shot to get to the Super Bowl. And I do agree with that. Joe Gonzalez reaches out and says, Niners look great. Going to be tough, but it's going to get into the tournament. It's all about getting to the tournament and get to that point. That's the thing, and the Cowboys right now are considered to be in first place by tiebreaker purposes as of right now. And I say as of right now because the weird thing is that if the Cowboys win out and win their last 4 games of the season, I mean, think about that. Right now, the Dallas Cowboys with a record of 10-3. If the Cowboys win out and go 14-3, that doesn't mean they win the division. Even though that right now they have the tiebreaker over the Eagles, it's because it goes from tiebreaker to tiebreaker, and they've both beaten each other, right? And then it goes to division record, and then it goes to conference record. And at that point, the Eagles, if the Eagles win out, would actually catch the Cowboys and flip-flop with them and be considered to be first place in the division and get the home game in the playoffs. And the Cowboys would then have to go on the road for 3 road games to try to make the Super Bowl. And at the end of the game yesterday, hanging out with a bunch of Cowboy fans, and, I'm the one friend that is at the house over there who's not a Cowboy fan. And they get upset about that. They're like, come on, Jimenez, cheer for the Cowboys, cheer for us. And I'm just not a fan. I'm not. But at the end of the game yesterday, what I found interesting was NBC goes off and says, here are the remaining games for each of these teams. And when it came to the Eagles, my friends just looked at me and said, oh my God, they have the easiest stretch to end the year. So let's talk about that. What is this stretch for the Eagles? The Eagles have a Monday night game next week, so they've got an extra day of rest. Monday night game on the road against Seattle. Seattle playing currently with a backup quarterback. That should be a victory for the Eagles. Then the Eagles on Christmas, on a Monday afternoon game on Christmas, home game against the Giants. And the Giants have been playing better as of late. But the Giants are not a winning team. They're not a good team. Then they have a home game against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Cardinals did beat the Cowboys earlier this year, but let's not pretend that Arizona's a good team. And Josh Dobbs is not walking through that door anymore. And then to end the season, the Eagles have a road game against the New York Giants, which, could be cold, could be snowy, but the Eagles are already familiar with that. So a backup quarterback, a backup quarterback, a backup quarterback, and a backup quarterback. Seattle, Giants, Cards, Giants. That's what the Eagles have right now for the rest of the season. Eagles win all 4 of those games. Doesn't matter what the Cowboys do. The Cowboys will not win the division, even if the Cowboys go 14-3. Now, the Cowboys, though, man, their schedule the rest of the way is brutal. On the road, playing in grass, and more than likely playing in really, really cold weather against the Buffalo Bills, who just beat Kansas City in a very dramatic game yesterday. They take on Buffalo Bills, and then the Cowboys have to go on the road, play another game on grass against the Miami Dolphins, who have a very, very interesting and very dynamic offense. And then the Cowboys come home to take on the Detroit Lions, and then go on the road to play a rival in the Washington Commanders. It is going to be a tough stretch for the Cowboys along the way. Now, the Niners also have a very easy stretch of games as well. Chances are, if I had to put money on it, I would say that the Super Bowl is going to run through San Francisco, because I think San Francisco can win its last 4 games. I think they have 1 game against Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. That might be the tough game that might hurt. But if you look at the Niners right now, the Niners, I mean, they've beaten the Cowboys. The Niners have beaten the Eagles. So you have to say that as of right now, the team to beat right now in the NFC is the San Francisco 49ers. And the fact of the matter is that the Niners, with Brock Purdy, that's the other MVP candidate. So if you look at the Las Vegas odds right now, it is either Dak Prescott or Brock Purdy. That is the 1 and 1A right now as to who's going to be the MVP. Now, if Dak goes out, and I said the other day that if he doesn't win the division, he doesn't win MVP, right? Because 14 of the last 15 years, the MVP has come from the team that has won first place in their own division. But if he ends the year with wins over Buffalo, Miami, and Detroit, just give Dak the MVP at that point. Like, that would be the exception to the rule when it comes to it all. Charlie Hernandez says, Aubrey gave me 23 fantasy points last night. Jeez, for a kicker, that's amazing. For a kicker, that's amazing. Tim Gonzalez saying, what's good, Mike Jimenez? Tell you what's good. The NFC playoffs right now. I mean, the NFC playoffs right now is where it's at, man. David Outwater saying, the next 2 weeks will tell us a lot about the Dallas Cowboys. He also says that he wants the Eagles to get upset. Chris Bettis reaches out and says, whoever wins the number 1 seed gets the MVP. If it's Brock Purdy, it could be. Now, a lot of Cowboy fans, I mean, I make fun of Cowboy fans all the time. I'm not a Cowboy fan. Okay, I'm just going to say it. I'm not. You know that, right? But as somebody who does talk sports talk, whether it be on the radio or somebody who does sports talk on a podcast or wherever the case may be, I want to be honest and truthful. Okay, you might call it trolling, but I call it being truthful. And I was trying to figure out who Brock Purdy is, because a lot of Cowboy fans believe that Dak Prescott is superior to Brock Purdy for a variety of different reasons. Now, Dak has been around for, 8 years, and he was a 4th-round draft pick out of Mississippi State, whereas Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant in his draft class. But a lot of Cowboy fans come out and say, oh, well, Brock Purdy is just a product of the Shanahan offense. He's just a product of having Christian McCaffrey in the backfield and having good receivers and a very, very solid tight end and a good offensive line and flanked by a good defense. And I'm like, oh, so you're telling me that he is Troy Aikman? Because if you're back in the day, I mean, Troy Aikman had, one of the greatest running backs of all time in Emmitt Smith. He had future Hall of Famer at wideout in Michael Irvin. And then you had Jay Novacek, who's a Hall of Famer at tight end. And then you've got a great offensive line. And you had an incredible stellar defense with the Charles Haleys and Deion Sanders of the world and all of that. And I'm like, oh, so Brock Purdy is Troy Aikman. And Cowboy fans get pissed when I say that, because I personally believe that as great as Troy Aikman was, there could have been 6 or 7 other quarterbacks back in the mid-'90s who could have taken that team to Super Bowl victories, dude. Brett Favre could have done it. Steve Young could have done it. Randall Cunningham could have taken that team and won Super Bowls. Doesn't mean that Troy Aikman wasn't great or isn't deserving of a Hall of Fame yellow jacket or gold jacket that he has. But I'm just saying, I mean, the guy was had the luxury of having all of these weapons in front of him. And Brock Purdy has the exact same luxury as well. And Brock Purdy is doing very, very well with the team right there. Now, one thing that could help Dak Prescott win the MVP is the fact that a lot of voters might actually give votes that would normally go to Brock Purdy to Christian McCaffrey. And I get it. Christian McCaffrey is a dynamic player, still in his 27 years old, I think is what he still is. Christian McCaffrey typically gets a touchdown per game. But the offensive line of the Niners yesterday, if you saw the interviews, Brock Purdy coming out, and they were saying, that guy is not a system quarterback. They're like, this guy is throwing into tight windows. This is a guy that is throwing to players who are not open yet, anticipating for them to be open. I think we try to generalize certain quarterbacks and say that it's a system. We use the phrase system when you don't like somebody. You know, oh, Tom Brady is not the greatest quarterback of all time. He's a system quarterback. You know, it's because of Bill Belichick, and it's because of, you know, all of these offensive minds in front of him. People use the word system quarterback just to simply say that they don't like them, and they try to take them down a notch, right? You can say that Dak Prescott's a system quarterback, right? If you don't like the Cowboys, you would say it as such, right? But the Niners right now looking very good. Niners have a very easy stretch along the way. And I mean, when you know the first play of the game yesterday for the Niners in their victory yesterday over Seattle was a 72-yard run by Christian McCaffrey. The Niners went on to win 28-16, but it really wasn't even that close. It really wasn't. If you look at the numbers for Brock Purdy, that system quarterback that people call, was 19 for 27 for 368 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, Jesus. I mean, the guy just went off yesterday. And then if you look at Christian McCaffrey, 16 carries for 145. Deebo Samuel had 7 receptions for 149 and a touchdown. Brandon Ayuk had 126 yards receiving. George Kittle at tight end, 76 yards and a touchdown. This is the team that the Cowboys need to beat in order to make it to the Super Bowl, because it's going to go through San Francisco. And if you look at it, San Francisco was also the team that lost 3 in a row earlier this year. And part of it was the offensive line was down, and we were kind of giving them crap because they lost to Cleveland, they lost to Minnesota, and they lost to Cincinnati. Now, on the road to Cincinnati, I can kind of understand, you know, but they had a stretch there where they weren't playing well. And if you're a Cowboy fan, do you really want the Cowboys to be on this massive winning streak going into the playoffs? Or do you want them to get tested, lose a game, and kind of be better because of it? Because sometimes losing a game actually makes you better. It prepares you. And sometimes you don't want to go into a playoff tournament, if you will, with 10 straight wins. It sometimes actually hurts you. David Otwater says, F Purdy and F Iowa State. Purdy's good, dude. Purdy is good. Chris Bettis says the NFC Conference Championship will actually be the Super Bowl because the Super Bowl winner will come from the NFC. Mito Cavasso is saying that he loved DK Metcalf body slamming Fred Warner. Dude, DK Metcalf has a temper on him. That is a guy that just loses his mind from time to time. And Fred Warner is somebody who deserves it from time to time. Fred Warner is somebody who talks a lot of shit. So, you know, let's get into something real fast because we talk about the NFC so much. At the very top, you have the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Eagles with the same record right there. And it could have been Detroit, but Detroit wet the bed yesterday against the Bears. But it's interesting when you take a look at the bottom part of the NFC over there, because with the NFC South, some team needs to win. And yesterday, you saw the Buccaneers win at the last minute. Baker Mayfield led this last-minute touchdown drive to win the game. The Saints finally woke up and realized they had a running game, and they won. And right now, you have a 3-way tie between the Bucs, the Saints, and the Falcons, all at 6-7 atop the NFC South. But it goes beyond that, because what's it going to take to actually make the playoffs? Because right now, if I'm looking at the back end right now of the NFC playoffs, There's 7 teams that make the playoffs, right? Right now, you have at the 4 seed, the Bucks with a 6-7 record. You have the 6 seed because they're not a division winner. Minnesota at 7-6. And then for the 7th spot, you have the Green Bay Packers who play tonight, who if they lose would drop to 6-7. The Rams are at 6-7. The Seahawks are at 6-7. The Falcons and the Saints are at 6-7. So you might only need to win 9 games. 10 gets you into the playoffs in the NFC, but 9 might actually do it. And when it comes to the NFC South, 8 wins might actually win the division. The Saints, though, my team, have for the last 2 weeks of the season have the Falcons and the Bucks. So if they can get in and win those last 2 games, my Saints will make the playoffs and would more than likely in the first round of the playoffs host whoever comes in second place in the NFC East, whether it be the Eagles or the Cowboys. Everyone talking about DK Metcalf. That was funny. You know what wasn't funny? Actually, it kind of was funny. Patrick Mahomes becoming a complete bitch yesterday. Patrick Mahomes. Okay, first of all, I have a lot of respect for Patrick Mahomes. And people were reaching out to me on Twitter saying, don't talk bad about Patrick Mahomes. He is Texas royalty. Okay, dude. Is he really Texas royalty? He went to Texas Tech. When I think of Texas royalty, I think of people who went to UT and A&M. Texas Tech is little brother, dude. Texas Tech is little brother. I don't give a shit about who comes out of Texas Tech. I don't care if they're all-time greats or not. It is Texas Tech. And who gives a shit about Texas Tech? People who went to Texas Tech or people from Lubbock. No one else does. Okay, it's like Baylor, dude. It's like Texas and A&M are up here. The mid-tiers would be like the Baylors and Texas Techs of the world, along with the UTSAs. This is what it is, baby. I speak no lies when it comes to it all. They're playing Buffalo yesterday, the Kansas City Chiefs, and Buffalo came into this game needing to win. Both these teams needed to win because Buffalo fighting for a playoff berth and Kansas City trying to fight for a second round home game in the playoffs, right? They're going to win their division, but can they have a good enough of a record to actually host a second round playoff game because they don't want to have 2 road games to make the Super Bowl. So the Bills were playing very tough, and the Chiefs have been struggling as of late. And Patrick Mahomes seems to get very frustrated because the Chiefs looked really good when the season started. But most recently, the passing game has not been there. And the reason why the passing game hasn't been there is because other than Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes has no one else that he trusts on that roster when it comes to throwing the ball. No one else. And look at this. Here's the last 6 games for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs lost the first game of the season, 21-20 to Detroit. But after that, won 6 in a row. In the last 6 games, the Kansas City Chiefs have lost 4 of them. So the Chiefs are 2-4 in the last 6 games. They lost to Denver 24-9. They beat Miami 21-14, lost to the Eagles 21-17, beat the Raiders, lost to the Packers and Jordan Love, and then lost at home to Buffalo. So think about that. Not only did they lose games, they lost to Philadelphia and Buffalo in Kansas City. And Patrick Mahomes yesterday, after losing 20-17, lost his shit and lost his mind on the sidelines, pissed off at this referee because the referee did his job. Now, if you didn't watch the play, they did a hook and ladder. Long pass to Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce catches the ball right around the 20-yard line, turns around, and throws it. Okay, throws it. It wasn't like a little shuffle pass out. He throws it downfield to Kadarius Toney, the receiver who always drops passes that he dropped a pass earlier this month that could have won a game for the Chiefs. Toney takes it into the end zone. Dramatic play. Place is going crazy. And then you look down on the ground and there's a yellow flag. And the yellow flag is there because the referees called Kadarius Toney for offsides. Now, let's talk about this. I never knew that offsides existed in the offense up until this year. But apparently it's a rule. Okay. I know what false start is, but there's a little bit of a different connotation when it comes to offsides, because with false start, you just stop the play. But for some reason, when it comes to offensive offsides, they let the play develop. And I don't understand that. We saw this last night in the Cowboys-Eagles game when the Eagles lined up for a tush push to try to get a first down, and they called offensive offsides on one of the Eagles players. So obviously, the NFL officials are being instructed to call it. Now, what happened was Kadarius Toney lined up in the neutral zone. He was past the ball. That is no shit. That's an offside. That's a penalty, an infraction, a violation, whatever you want to call it, on the Chiefs. It's a no-brainer. For Patrick Mahomes to lose his mind on the sidelines at the officials and then have a press conference, and then for his wife, Brittany Mahomes, to go out there and talk shit on Instagram and say that the official should not have called it because it was an all-time great play and because Travis Kelce is such a great player, and that it was the officials inserting themselves into the game. Now, one of the things when you look at that replay is that Kadarius Toney, who's been shit for brains the entire year for the Chiefs, he did not look over at the official and ask if he was in correct position. You see this a lot in NFL games. And this is kind of the give and take sometimes when it comes to officiating. And I have a little bit of say when it comes to this because I officiate high school basketball. And part of officiating the game is you do not want to insert yourself into the game. So instead of calling everything, you basically give people a heads up as to, hey, you may want to check this, right? So when I officiate high school basketball, I don't like calling 3-second violation. I will call it, but I'll say 35, get out of the lane. 35, move in and out, 35, in and out, 35. Or I'll say 12, hands off, because I don't want to call a foul on every single damn play. But if they don't do what you're told or they don't ask for help, what are you going to do? So receivers all the time, when they line up, will oftentimes look over at the official and ask for guidance. And the officials, 99.999% of the time, give that guidance. And they'll say, move back, move back. And it's a way of keeping the flow of the game going. We see it all the time. Kadarius Toney did not look back. He didn't ask the official for help. And because he didn't ask for help, he's offsides. Had he looked over and looked at the official and said, am I good? Am I good? The official would have looked at him and said, no, move back. And Toney could have taken a half step back and would have been perfectly fine at that point. But he didn't do his job. And it's not the official's job to bail out a player who's offsides, no matter how great the play is. And I understand the emotions and the dramatics of, while we were going to come, we've been struggling as a team, and for that to all happen, and for the whole play to transpire, I think what the NFL needs to do is they need to kill the play when it's offsides on the offense. They need to kill the play. I'll give you a couple reasons why. One is, what's the point of doing the play if it's going to come back anyway? When an offensive lineman rocks backwards or an offensive lineman twitches and they call false start, they kill the play. They kill the play. What's going to happen if there's an offensive play where there's offsides by a receiver or by whomever? They let the play materialize and then a player gets hurt downfield. That's what I thought of when I saw this. I'm not upset that they actually called it. I'm upset that they let the play develop. They should have just killed the play. It wasn't going to count anyway. This wasn't like a free play when the defensive goes outside offsides and the quarterback knows, I got a free play, I'm just going to chunk it downfield. That's not what happened. The officials knew that this play was not going to count. So why are they letting 22 players run a whole play and risk injury? Now, Mahomes, when told your player was offsides, should have just ended the conversation with that. But for him to come out and say, well, it doesn't matter if my guy is offsides. It was a great play. And the official is inserting himself. He made himself look and sound like a fucking idiot, is what he did. Joe Gonzalez reaches out and says, Taylor Swift effect, TK needs to dump her so that he can win again. Dude, Taylor Swift has nothing to fucking do with it. You know who had to do with this? Kadarius Toney being off fucking sides is why it all happened. And no, they're not going to break up. They're going to get married. It's going to happen. Mario Cavazza says if the Chiefs lose again, they're going to blame Travis's girlfriend because people are fucking stupid. Because people are stupid. If you look at Travis Kelce is going to do what? He's going to make the Pro Bowl again. He's a Hall of Famer. And here's the thing about Travis Kelce. There's a lot of chatter right now saying that he might actually retire at the end of the season because he's getting older. He's going to be a 35-year-old tight end next year. And at some point, your play deteriorates. And it's not as good as it normally is. And here's the thing, man. Travis Kelce is a complete stud. Arguably one of the three greatest tight ends of all time. You put him up there with Tony Gonzalez and Rob Gronkowski, you know, the Sharps of the world. That's where you put him up there. Travis Kelce is a complete stud. And the thing about Travis Kelce, unlike a lot of NFL players, is that he actually has a life ahead of him that might be bigger and better than what he does in football. A lot of football players hang on tight and they have to be dragged off the field because they have nothing better to do. They don't know anything else. Travis Kelce is somebody who's going to be in the media. He's somebody who he has the number one, along with his brother Jason Kelce, the number one sports podcast in all of the country. I mean, he is the sports version of Joe Rogan. He is the player version of Pat McAfee. And beyond that, the guy can act. He can do comedic things. He hosted SNL. And if you didn't look at that, you didn't watch him on Saturday Night Live, go on YouTube or go on Peacock and check out the SNL that he did back in February. It was very, very, very good. Travis Kelce last night, 6 receptions for 83 yards. He did his job. I mean, 83 yards from your tight end. Who else got that from their fantasy tight end? He's still a top 3, top 5 tight end in the NFL right now. And I believe it's probably going to be his last year. Joe Gonzalez reaches out and says, Dan retires and walks into a $1 billion relationship with a person of the year. Man is a winner. Dude, you know, I am a big fan of Taylor Swift. She's the biggest pop star that we've had since Michael Jackson. She's on the pantheon of Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, and Madonna when it comes to solo performers. She's up there. I mean, that is the stratosphere. That is the tier 1 of it all. People go to Harvard and can take a class on Taylor Swift, for crying out loud. There's classes on her, on Beyonce, on Joni Mitchell, a lot of singers from back in the day as well. I find that to be interesting, but she has nothing to do with the fact that Kadarius Toney sucks at his job. She has nothing to do with the fact that Kadarius Toney dropped a pass in the end zone that cost the Chiefs a game a few weeks ago. She has nothing to do with the fact that Kadarius Toney was offsides yesterday. That guy, Kadarius Toney, has been the worst thing in the world for Patrick Mahomes and that offense. That offense struggles because they have no receivers. I mean, let's take a look at the receivers that they have over there. Tell me if any of these strike fear into your mind here. Here were the receivers for Patrick Mahomes yesterday. Travis Kelce, 6 receptions for 83 yards. His longest being 23, and he had potentially the biggest play that would have won the game. Rashee Rice, 7 receptions for 72 yards. You afraid of Rashee Rice? Have you ever heard of Rashee Rice? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was a former first-round draft pick from LSU, who's had a pedestrian NFL career. Kadarius Toney, 3 receptions for 25 yards. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, 2 receptions for 22 yards. Justin Watson, Jerick McKinnon, Richie James and Sky Moore. That is who Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball to. And they're not going to get very far. And it's not going to be because of Taylor Swift. It's going to be because they have no weapons on the offense. So earlier in the show, earlier in the podcast, I was talking about the fact that this is the window of opportunity for the Cowboys. And if you look at it this way, this is what happens when you pay your players appropriately, but you have a salary cap. And if the Cowboys are looking pretty good right now, wait till they have to pay Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons ain't going to be cheap, and he ain't going to give you that hometown discount. Oh, he's with the Cowboys. He's going to take a discount. No, he's not. He's going to get 28, 29, $30 million. And Dak's going to get 60. And we already saw what Trayvon Diggs got, and we saw what CeeDee Lamb's getting. Not going to be enough money. That means they're going to have to kick Pollard off to the curb. That means they're going to have to get rid of certain players. This is the window of opportunity because it gets rougher the more you start paying your star players. And that's where the Chiefs are right now. Who would you rather have right now, Cowboy fans? Would you rather have Dak Prescott right now at $60 million next season, or would you rather have Brock Purdy at $1 million? Think about what the Niners are able to do right now because Brock Purdy makes $900,000 a year. Think about what the Niners are able to do right now because they spend 1% of the salary cap on a quarterback, on a star quarterback. Look at the Houston Texans right now. I think they paid C.J. Stroud like $9 million. He was the number 2 overall pick in the draft, but that $9 million, most of it was bonus. This is the window of opportunity, and we're seeing this right now for a lot of teams. A lot of teams where they start paying their quarterbacks. This is why the Bengals are going to start sucking now that they have to sign Joe Burrow the way that they did, and we're going to see the Chargers suck even more, and we're going to see the Ravens not be able to field a good team. You need to have a quarterback at a certain price point. Cowboys paying $44, $45 million for Dak Prescott makes sense. But paying him 60, which is what Dak's probably going to get, it's going to be harder and harder. Mario Cavasso says, yes, Pollard is a goner. Pollard's a goner for a variety of different reasons. He has not proven himself to be an elite running back anymore. He's a good running back. But you're not going to pay a good running back $11 million. Not anymore. I mean, that $11 million price tag right now is for like the studs of the world. You know, Brock Purdy making $1 million is the reason why they're able to have Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. It's the reason why they have the offensive line and the defense that they have. The Niners are going to be around for a couple more years because that contract is still around. This is the exciting time of the year. Paul Contu reaches out and says, Dak already got his money. If he truly cares about winning, he takes a cap-friendly deal a la Brett Favre and Tom Brady. Won't happen, but he should. Yeah, he's not going to. And the reason why he's not going to is because it is a fraternity of quarterbacks. And you do not want to set that precedent because it screws over the person behind you. That's why it runs up from 40 million to 41 to 42 to 43 to 44. The only one that's done it recently where they actually took a lot less money was Patrick Mahomes. Now, Mahomes became the highest paid quarterback when he signed a deal for $40 million a year, but he signed it for 10 years. And he knew that he was going to be expensive then, but as every year goes by, it becomes less and less and less expensive because the cap keeps going up and the price tag for the quarterback stays the same if you sign a 10-year deal, like 10 years, $400 million, if I'm not mistaken. But Dak Prescott routinely was taking 3-year deals. Why? Because he wanted the bigger deal. So if you think he's going to take a discount, he's not. He's not. He might win the MVP and get a $60 million deal. But think about all the players the Cowboys are going to have to give up to do that. And the Cowboys are going to be forced into doing it because you're not going to ditch the MVP. You're just not. Drew Show says 450. That's about right. 10-year 450 for Patrick Mahomes. I knew it was in that range. But the fact of the matter is that he is not he's a bargain right now. Drew reaches out and says, why don't any of these quarterback follow the GOATs and take pay cuts to make sure that their teams go to multiple Super Bowls? Tom Brady is the only one. Pay cut, you're still making a fortune. I will go back to you on that one. Okay. The reason why I don't think that that's a legit argument for Tom Brady is that Tom Brady was married to a woman who was actually making more money than him. So if you want to say Travis Kelce, hey, you go marry Taylor Swift and take a very friendly deal because you're married to a billionaire, that makes sense. But if you look at Tom Brady was making less money than Gisele. Or Gisele Bündchen, at the very least, was making at least the same, but Gisele was a supermodel. So I know they're not married anymore, but it's easy to take that pay cut when the missus in the house is making just as much, if not more, than you. Dak Prescott does not have that luxury there. And maybe the Cowboys are playing well because they exercise their demons. That demon being, they're going to honor Jimmy Johnson in the Ring of Honor for crying out loud. It's been so long. They should have done it a long time ago. Maybe that's it. Let's talk about the Spurs real fast. Oh, real fast. Mario Cavazza says, imagine if there was a football player to play both ways, offensive and defense, and receive a $700 million deal. I think you're talking about Ohtani going to the Dodgers, which, by the way, for Shohei Ohtani to go to the Dodgers, I mean, I get it. They offered him the most money. But that's why baseball is difficult to follow sometimes. I cheered for the Rangers to win the World Series. But to be honest with you, the idea of one team paying 5, 6, 7, 8 times more than another team in their own division is a turnoff. That's kind of why I don't like watching the regular season when it comes to baseball. It's like, it's the rich get richer, and the other teams, the Royals of the world and the Brewers and the A's and all that are all just farm teams for the bigger teams, the bigger market teams. Spurs back in action tonight. What are your thoughts, guys? We going to win tonight, or is this streak going to go to 17? Because the Spurs right now, I said that if the streak went to 16 to 15 and they lost to the Bulls, that it would get to 20. It's going to get to 20, dude. And I posted a GIF on Twitter earlier today of a guy shaking a magic 8-ball. And my caption for it was, this is how I imagine Greg Popovich getting starting lineups done. I just think that he's not built for this. Spurs right now 3-18 on the year, currently tied with the second worst record in the NBA. They're playing the Rockets tonight in Houston, a team that a lot of people thought that Victor Wembanyama was going to go to. And if you look at the spread tonight, the Rockets are favored by 8.5 points. It's a 7 p.m. tip-off. After this, the Spurs have back-to-back games against the LA Lakers, both games over here in San Antonio. And I'm going to go to one of those games. I'm going on Wednesday. They play the Rockets tonight, Wednesday against the Lakers, Friday against the Lakers, who just won whatever that cup was called, the in-season tournament. Then the Spurs have New Orleans. Then they're on the road against the Bucks, the Bulls, the Mavericks, the Jazz. Dude, if this losing streak gets to 23 or 24, we need to all just protest at that point. Protest at that point. Because there are a lot of Pop holdouts out there who are like, in Pop we trust. He's still the coach for a reason. Dude, this streak gets to that. I mean, I was saying that I was pissed off at a 5-game losing streak, and I got super pissed at 10. And I said, oh my God, it's going to get to 20. At that point, if the Spurs don't do anything to change their coaching staff and don't have any heads roll, that would be insulting to you as a Spurs fan and insulting to me as a Spurs fan. This losing streak gets that high, 20, 22, 23. That's a fourth of the season, man. They don't do anything about it other than say, well, we're just trying to see what we got. We're changing the lineups up, all that stuff. That's insulting. Make a move. Make a change. I don't care if Pop has 5 rings. It's time. Move on. Because at some point, Spurs fans are going to be so disinterested that they're not going to go to the games anymore. If they don't respect us as fans, how can we respect them as a team? That's all I'm saying. Ruben Espinosa reaches out to us, says, how are the projected number 1 draft prospects looking in 24? Tank 2.0. Great website called Tankathon. There's different versions of it, but it basically talks about who the percentages that certain teams have of reaching, of winning the lottery. And as of right now, the Spurs, if the season were to end right now and things were to unfold the way that they should, the Spurs would have the number 2 overall pick and the number 9 overall pick. Now, the pick that they have at number 9 belongs to Toronto. Toronto has a 9-13 record, but that pick is top 6 protected this year. So the Spurs could have 1 pick, could have 2, potentially 3, but more than likely the Spurs are going to have 2 picks. And if we don't get a second pick this year, that means that next year the Spurs will have somewhere between 3 and 5 first-rounders next year. So the young get even younger. And people are asking the question, well, Jimenez, who do you want right now? Because when it comes to the draft, I like to watch a lot of film on these players, and I fall in love with certain players. So back in the day, a few years ago, James Pledger and I from San Antonio Sports Star, we fell in love with a player named Devin Vassell, and we were happy that the Spurs got him at number 11. I know Tyrese Halliburton was picked right after. Halliburton's going to be one of the best point guards in the league. He already is. I get it, right? But right now, what I'm doing is I'm just watching a lot of tape right now. Last week, I saw a lot of tape on Nikola Topic, who plays for KK Mega Basket. And Nikola Topic is a 6'6", 18-year-old point guard. And I was taking a look at him and trying to see if that's the point guard I want. I was kind of intrigued. But I've got to look at some of these other names that are out there. I mean, some of them I'm going to watch anyway because they play college ball, like Isaiah Collier. And Jacoby Walter and Stefan Castle, players like that. I'll see them just simply because I watch college basketball. But some of these names out there, like Ron Holland out of the G League and Alexander Sarr out of Perth and Matas Buzelis out of the G League, that's something that I'm going to have to research on my own. So I don't have a player that I like right now. I liked Alperen Sengun a couple of years ago. He blew up, and instead the Spurs went after Josh Primo. I liked players more than Jeremy Sohan, I'm going to be honest with you. But that Sohan pick kind of makes sense at this point. 9th pick in the draft. He's probably the 9th best player in that draft. So it wasn't like it was an overreach or anything like that. Chris Leha says, Jimenez was in love with Dick last year. That's right, Grady Dick, baby. That was my guy last year. He was one of my favorite players to watch last year. Leha says, I don't like anyone in this draft. We need vets. That is true. Speaking of Leha, my man over at MCS contracting, baby. That's where you want to go for your contracting needs. What do we call it? We call it rock hard. We call it diamond hard concrete, because when it comes to that concrete, baby, dude, I'm gonna let you know, Leha, my sister wants you to do the basketball court. We're making this happen. Insider information right here. She wants that basketball court. So they do everything from concrete patios to slabs for homes, for businesses, parking lots, and things like that. But one of the cool things is that they can actually create a basketball court for you, draw the lines out there for the blocks and for the free throw line and the 3-point line. And I know that my sister's been in contact with Chris Leha about that. Reach out to MCS Contracting. And don't forget also, we're sponsored by Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs. Dude, daily content when it comes to it all, when it comes to your silver and black. Follow him at Jeff G Spurzone. We need vets. And that's the thing, because this team is getting younger and younger and younger. And at some point, it's going to look like a bunch of 18 and 20-year-olds running around the court, which already is right now. And what is the end game for the Spurs? I mean, is the end game simply to package these guys and try to get a star? Is the end game to try to do the Oklahoma City Thunder route and have 10 years of bad luck and then hope that 2 or 3 of these hit? I don't know what the end game's going to be. I don't think the Spurs know what the end game's going to be. But the fact of the matter is that when I look at it, do I want a coach who's turning 75 next month to be in charge of it all? I don't. I don't. I think of, is it the movie Big Daddy with Adam Sandler? I think it was the movie Big Daddy. It's been a long time. But there's a line where this girl breaks up with him and she's dating this old man. And she goes, he has a 5-year plan. And his response back was, what is that plan? Not to die? That's kind of how I feel for the Spurs right now. Drew Show reaches out and says, with hindsight being 2020, looking back, Pop's infatuation with Bryn Forbes was an early indicator of how big of a fraud he is. Didn't play defense, no talent, got the most minutes and the most shots. Dude, I couldn't stand Bryn Forbes. I couldn't stand him. David Atwater coming out and saying Brian Wright is the issue. Brian Wright does not exist. He's a hologram. Trying to reach all the other things. I have no idea what Paul Cantu is going at with the old man with the wrinkly balls. Oh, yeah, from Big Daddy. That's right. Okay, yeah. Okay, sorry. I forgot that I was making a movie reference. But, man, Spurs again in action tonight, 7 o'clock. That's going to be on Bally Sports. Right now, I have not only YouTube TV, but I have Fubo. I'm running both of them right now to see which one I would like more. I have YouTube TV because I like the NFL Sunday Ticket, but the Fubo is because I need Bally Sports, and it's not on YouTube TV. So I got to make a decision at the end of the I'm probably going to drop YouTube TV, although I like it more. I'm probably going to drop it at the end of the NFL season because I can't, justify having 2 cable services at one time. Again, Spurs, 7 o'clock tonight, trying to snap that 16-game skid. Magic 8-ball time. Let's find out who the Spurs are going to start. Doesn't really matter. Really, at this point, I'm done with the season. Although I will be in attendance on Wednesday. So I will be at the Spurs game Wednesday against the Lakers. One of my vendors from the business that I have, one of my vendors confirmed about 20 minutes ago. I saw the text while I was doing the show saying that we're going to the Spurs game on Wednesday. Now, because I'm being treated by my vendors out there, I wonder if these seats are going to be good or not. They better be, right? If I'm doing business with them, they better be good seats. I saw that Cardi B is single. So, gentlemen, line up. We'll do a little bit of pop culture here. Cardi B. I know a lot of people just don't like her because she has kind of a weird voice. And, her music is not for everybody. But apparently Cardi B is single again. Split up with Offset from Migos. And she mentioned it on social media. Cardi B, one of my favorite things that I've seen of her is the interaction she had with Stephen Colbert on the Colbert Show. I thought that was funny. I thought it was funny. She was kind of flirting with him. He kind of flirted back, and she did an impromptu performance about what it would be like to sleep with him. It was good times, man. It was good times. Chris Gonzalez is down says, are you going to ask, what are you wearing to your vendor? Okay, first of all, I went out with Jeff Garcia from Locked On Spurs a couple weeks ago, and I asked the question, what are we wearing? I think that's a legitimate question to ask. What are we wearing tonight? Are we dressing up? Are we going to dress down? I needs to know. That is not an effeminate thing to say. That is not a bad thing to say as a guy to ask the question, what are we wearing tonight? Because you don't want to go dressed down if they're dressed up and vice versa, right? Have you had that situation before where you're dressed up and your friend shows up in cargo shorts? I've had it done several times. And I've been the guy in cargo shorts before too, where I'm like, hey, I'm going to go get something to drink with a friend. And I'm dressed down. They're like, hey, let's go to bar 1919. Let's go to Esquire, Havana. And I'm like, why are we going to nice places? I'm dressed down. So yes, I'm going to ask that question. Mario reaches out and says, Mike's favorite Cardi B song is WAP. Wet ass pee. Mm-hmm. Ain't nothing wrong with that, baby. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Chris Layhaw says Cardi is for the streets, and so is Jimenez. Match made in heaven. Hey man, she ain't ugly, dude. I wouldn't kick that out of bed. No shot at all. Marty asked the question, what was my movie review on Bloodsport? I actually liked it. Man. Bloodsport was pretty decent, man. I didn't think it was going to have that good of a plot. I mean, it was cheesy. I think I gave it a B+. B as in a boy. Alfonso reaches out and says, I always ask my boy what we're wearing to an event. We got to. Drew Show, is Cardi B the one who was a stripper? I believe so. I'm going to look that one up. I don't want to slander her over here. Let me see. Cardi B, stripper. Was it her? Yeah, she was. She was a stripper out in New York back in the day. She's actually very talented, man. I enjoy a lot of her music. I mean, I'm not like jamming out to fucking Cardi B on the drive into work or anything like that, but I don't mind her music. I think she's actually very talented. Joe Gonzalez confirms she was a stripper. Tim Gonzalez says, let's see if Jimenez doesn't wear his ref shirt to Wednesday's game at the Frost Bank Center. Dude, if I went dressed as a referee with a whistle. You know what's so funny is that whenever I watch NBA games, the referee jerseys that they wear is the exact same brand that I wear. And I'm actually pretty excited. I'm a little bit upset that I have no games this week. I don't have any basketball games to officiate this week because I've got my daughter's college graduation from LSU. By the way, congratulations, Jaden Daniels, your Heisman Trophy winner. LSU. But I'm going to Baton Rouge on Thursday. The ceremony is on Friday, and I'll probably hang out there Saturday and Sunday just simply to enjoy the sights and sounds. I know the Saints are playing Sunday against the Giants at the Superdome, so I might make it out there. Maybe. Or I might hit up a casino, La Berge, Golden Nugget, whatever. I'm going to go do something. But next week, I have games 6A level, which is the highest level of high school varsity in town. And I've got games at Paul Taylor Fieldhouse for a Northside ISD 6A game. I've got games over at Littleton Gym, which is Blossom Athletic Complex, for an NEISD 6A game. And I've got games at the Alamo Convocation Center that are varsity as well. So I am going to the big gyms. I've done the Alamo Convocation Center before. But I've never done Paul Taylor Fieldhouse, and I've never done the NEISD big gym over there at Littleton. And I'm super excited about that. I'm super excited. Mario Cavazza saying, congratulations to your daughter, man. I'm excited, dude. She's just 20 years old, man. Just 20 years old. Chris Gonzalez talking about LSU. How did Jaden Daniels win the Heisman? By being a badass. Jaden Daniels had over a 70% accuracy throwing the ball 20 yards and beyond. Think about that. There are quarterbacks who wish they had 70% accuracy on all the things that they do, even the 3-yard passes and 10-yard passes. 70% plus accuracy beyond 20 yards. And, I mean, he had over 50 touchdown passes. I mean, the guy was a complete stud. He will be a first-round draft pick selection. May not go number 1 overall. I know they lost 3 games, but, I mean, he was arguably the best quarterback out there in the league, out there in college football. There were other quarterbacks that did just as well. But the fact of the matter is, Penix being one of them, the guy had numbers that had never been seen before. And he was just as good as Joe Burrow. When Joe Burrow won, dude, Daniels became the first player in college football history with 350 yards passing in a game while rushing for 200. I want my Saints to get this guy because Derek Carr is a piece of shit. That's what I want. But like I said, I'm excited about going and playing and officiating in these big gyms. And So if you want to check it out, I'll put my schedule out there. I have no idea who's playing who. Let me see. I've got it right here. Let's see what games I'm calling and whether or not these intrigue people. The 19th, which is an early afternoon game, I've got a game Brandeis at Madison. And later on in the week, I've got Highlands at Jefferson. And then I've got later on the following week, Stevens at Taft. Yay. I had a game where they called out one of my plays that I called a moving screen or an illegal screen. And it's funny getting video of you officiating games or when I get it of myself officiating games. And they're like, what did you think about this call that you made? It was kind of a controversial one. But I stand by it. Not because I called it, but because I look at it more and more. And I think to myself, yeah, I was right on that one. Paul Taylor gym is old. That is true. Mario Cavasso says that gym's been around forever. I officiated a game over at Harlan, and I didn't realize that Harlan is now one of the main gyms for Northside. It's considered to be a neutral site, and they have all the banners of all the high schools up there at Harlan. And I did a 6A game the other day of Warren against Sotomayor of the girls varsity. And it's a good complex. It's a really good complex. But I had never done Paul Taylor. Paul Taylor means something to me because I went to Holmes. And that was kind of like where we would go watch the games be played. But those are the big stadiums, right? Don't get me wrong. What they have at Harlan is probably nicer. But it's just the idea of being at Paul Taylor. That's all that it is. Everyone. Mario says kids are getting taller. A lot of them are over 6 feet. Dude, I mean, I've done games at Judson before. And you see these high-flying guys that are just rocking the rim and everything, man. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I don't think they're getting taller. I think we're just getting older, man. Just think we're getting older. Everyone, I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Again, the Spurs play tonight at 7 o'clock, taking on the Houston Rockets. Let's see if the streak gets to 17 or if the Spurs can actually snap it. Joe Garcia should be coming back beginning of the year. So we're debating whether or not we're going to do this daily. We're debating what time to do this. I know that a lot of people have been asking us to go back to the noon slot. That might actually happen. So we're going to try to figure this out. But spread the word. We're at 625 followers right now on YouTube alone. But again, people watch us on Facebook and people follow us on YouTube and Spotify and Twitter and all that stuff. Spread the word, man. Spread the word that we're here doing what we do. Hope everyone has a fantastic day. Follow me on Twitter at MJ Acquired Taste. And don't forget to roast me, man, because it happens every single day. Paul reached out saying noon because Rome sucks a D. If you didn't see the ratings, Sports Stars ratings dropped from 2.3 to 1.1. That's a 53% drop when I left. Scoreboard, baby, scoreboard. Everyone have a great day today. See you guys on Wednesday.